Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about how to care for the beautiful Philodendron Gloriosum. I'll cover everything: light, watering, repotting and more. Plus I'll share how I managed to triple its size in just 9 months and even had to repot it twice because it outgrew its pots. Here is how my plant looked back in February. It was in a small pot with one big leaf that had some yellow spots. There was also a new leaf starting to grow and the stem was already looking for more space. I knew the plant needed some attention, so the first thing I did was to repot it. Philodendron Gloriosum is a crawling plant, so I choose a wide, shallow pot to give the stem plenty of space to grow horizontally. I'll talk about this later in this video. Now let's start with its requirements. If you want to truly understand how to care for any plant, it's always a good idea to learn about its natural habits, where it grows in the wild and how it thrives. This gives you a clear idea of what it needs to be happy in your home. Philodendron Gloriosum is native to the tropical forests of Central and South America. We'll often find it creeping along the forest floor, where it gets dappled sunlight filtering through the tree canopy. Unlike climbing philodendrons, Gloriosum is terrestrial crawler, spreading its stems horizontally as it grows. The humid, warm environment and nutrient-rich soil of the rainforests are key to its survival. The Philodendron Gloriosum is truly remarkable with its large velvety heart-shaped leaves. The deep green foliage is highlighted by striking white veins, making it favorite among philodendrons. Each leaf feels like a piece of art, and as the plant matures, the leaves grow even larger and more dramatic. When it comes to growth rate, Gloriosum isn't the fastest grower, but it's incredibly rewarding. Under the right conditions, you can expect it to produce a new leaf every few weeks to a couple of months, depending on the season and care. It's a plant that focuses its energy on quality rather than quantity, so each new leaf is bigger and more stunning than the last. Now let's talk about light requirements. Philodendron Gloriosum thrives in bright indirect light to grow massive stunning leaves. When I first got mine, I placed it in front of a northeast facing window. It received morning sun and indirect light throughout the day, as I live in the northern hemisphere. After a few months, I decided to move it near a south-facing window to see if it would do better. That's when I noticed a big difference. The plant started producing larger leaves more frequently, and the stem began crawling in multiple directions to spread. At this position, it gets direct sunlight in the afternoon, but my windows have UV filters, so the light isn't harmful. However, prolonged direct sunlight can scorch the leaves, especially if the plant is too close to the window or there are no UV filters. To prevent this, you can move it slightly away from the window or add a sheer curtain. I recommend choosing a spot with plenty of light and gradually introducing direct sunlight, either in the morning or late afternoon. If you don't have a spot with enough natural light, it grows pretty well under grow lights too. However, in lower light condition, you will notice smaller leaves, slower growth and faded colors. It's also important to rotate your plant regularly when you see it leaning toward the light source. In nature, light comes from above, but indoors it often comes from one side, so rotating helps the plant grow evenly. I rotate mine every 10 days to ensure all the leaves get proper light and stay upright. When it comes to watering, Gloriosum likes consistent moisture but doesn't tolerate sitting in soggy soil. Overwatering can quickly lead to root rot, which is one of the most common problems with this plant. I water mine when the top 2 to 3 inches of soil feel dry to the touch. To check, I simply stick my finger into the soil, and if it's dry at that depth, it's time to water. When I water, I make sure to give it a good soak until water drains out of the bottom of the pot. This ensures the entire root system gets hydrated. Your watering routine might vary depending on your environment. In warmer months, or if the plant is in a brighter spot, it may need water more often. During the cooler months, you can reduce watering since the plant's growth slows down and the soil takes longer to dry. If you're unsure about when to water, it's always better to underwater slightly than to overwater. When it comes to temperature and humidity, this plant loves warm, humid conditions, just like its natural rainforest habitat. To keep it thriving, aim for temperature range between 65 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit. It's not a fan of cold temperatures, so be sure to keep it away from drafts, air conditioners or heaters that can cause sudden temperature changes. If the temperature drops below 55, the plant can start to suffer. When it comes to humidity, higher is better. Ideally, aim for a humidity level of at least 60%. If your home is naturally dry, especially in winter, you should try to increase humidity. Placing the plant near a humidifier is one of the easiest ways. But you can also group it with other plants or use a pebble tray filled with water. I don't suggest misting the leaves because water on the leaves create the perfect conditions for fungal issues. I've noticed that when the humidity is higher, the leaves grow larger and look healthier. Let's move on to repotting and soil mix. Since Philodendron Gloriosum is a crawler, it grows horizontally instead of climbing. This means it needs a wide, shallow pot rather than a deep one. Over the past 9 months, I've had to repot mine twice because it outgrew its pot so quickly. When the stem starts crawling outside the pot, it's time to repot and give it more space. Alternatively, you can cut the part of the stem that's crawling out and use it for propagation. When repotting, always be gentle with the roots. If the roots look healthy, avoid removing too much of the old soil to prevent unnecessary damage. Also, always choose pots with drainage holes to prevent waterlogging, which can lead to root rot. During my last repotting, I chose a much larger pot because my plant was growing and spreading very quickly. Let's talk about the soil mix. Gloriosum loves a light, airy and well-draining mix. I use my own custom-made mix for all of my philodendrons and it works perfectly. It's a combination of coco coir, perlite, orchid bark and a few other ingredients. If you are interested in how I prepare this mix, I'll leave a link in the description. If you prefer to buy ready-made mixes, look for blends designed for aerids or tropical plants. Just make sure the mix is light and not too compact, as Gloriosum's roots need plenty of room to breathe. Sometimes you may notice the leaves of your Philodendron Gloriosum leaning downwards or to the side. This happens because the leaves are long and can become heavy as they grow, especially if the stems aren't fully supported. To keep the leaves upright, you can use small stakes to provide gentle support. I've added a few stakes to my plant and it made a big difference. The leaves now stand upright and the plant looks much more balanced and tidy. Fertilize your philodendron from spring through fall about once a month when the plant is actively growing. I recommend using a balanced liquid fertilizer with nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium formulation to provide the right mix of nutrients for healthy leaves, strong stems and root development. Always dilute the fertilizer to half the recommended strength to avoid over-fertilizing, which can damage the roots and cause a leaf burn. When applying fertilizer, make sure the soil is already moist. Never fertilize a dry plant, as this can also harm the roots. During the winter months, when the plant's growth slows down, you can pause fertilizing completely or reduce it to once every 2 to 3 months. Overfeeding during dormancy isn't necessary and can do more harm than good. Like most houseplants, Gloriosum can occasionally face issues with pests such as spider mites, mealybugs or scale. These pests tend to hide on the underside of leaves and along the stems, so it's a good idea to check your plant. If you spot any pests, I recommend wiping the leaves with a damp cloth to remove visible pests and treating the plant with neem oil or insecticidal soap. Be sure to isolate the plant from others until the infestation is fully under control. To prevent pests and keep the plant healthy, I clean the leaves regularly using a soft brush. This helps remove dust and any tiny pests that may be hiding. It's a gentle way to keep the leaves looking fresh and allows the plant to absorb more light. Diseases are usually caused by overwatering or poor airflow, leading to root rot or fungal infections. To prevent this, make sure your plant is in a well-draining pot and the soil is allowed to dry slightly between waterings. It's completely normal for older leaves to turn yellow and die off as the plant grows. This is just a natural part of its life cycle, and you can trim those leaves to keep your plant looking fresh. However, if you notice other leaves yellowing, it could be a sign that your plant needs attention. The most common reasons are improper watering or dry air. Check your soil to make sure you're not overwatering or underwatering, and check the humidity levels around your plant. Gloriosum thrives in higher humidity, so if the air is too dry, it may need some extra care. I hope I've covered all the necessary information on how to care for Philodendron Gloriosum. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below. I'll be happy to answer. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel for more plant care tips. Thanks for watching and happy growing!